The rumors and news we've been hearing are all true.
It's true, all of it.
Mandalorian and Grogu are coming to the big screen for a feature film that's going to be directed by Jon Favreau, and it's supposed to be going into production this year.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening!
Does that mean we're also still getting a season 4 of The Mandalorian? Does that mean we're still getting Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie connecting all of these characters together? And what about all of the other Star Wars projects that Disney have already announced? How can they just announce one after the other, promising some of these films which are still years away? I have answers to all of your questions. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. All right, it looks like Disney are doing it again, and I'm a little worried, to be honest, because the amount of new projects Disney have announced in recent times, promising things that are still way off into the future to hopefully not get cancelled. Every time a new Disney project or film gets announced like this, I just get a little bit nervous, because it's not like they're making the sequel trilogy anymore. It's not like they're making the Star Wars trilogies, which was the old formula for making Star Wars movies, where you were guaranteed 3 films, one led into the next.
No one can kill a Jedi.
Coincidence? I think not!
All of the current projects that are in development are individual projects, even if they have connected characters to other parts of Star Wars. So with that said, there is a bit of a chance that some of this stuff could be cancelled. I'm going to get into all the details of the news and what you can expect from this film and what's happening next for Star Wars in the next couple minutes, but first, I just want to say, do you guys remember the Star Wars Investor Day from 2020? That 20-ish minute video of Kathleen Kennedy presenting us with all of the new Star Wars projects that are on the horizon. And here we had the announcement of what at the time was the next Star Wars film to release, Rogue Squadron. What have you guys heard about Rogue Squadron since?
Nothing.
Exactly, it doesn't exist anymore. They got rid of it.
No! God!
For whatever reason, I think it was scheduling conflicts, I think it was the fact that Patty Jenkins' previous film didn't perform as well, and they decided to take Star Wars in a new direction. Rangers of the New Republic was another project announced at this panel that is yet to see the light of day and likely never will. At the time, this seemed like the most exciting day Star Wars had had in years, possibly since the announcement of the sequel trilogy. Now, I'm not saying they haven't fulfilled everything they said in this panel. We've, of course, had 3 seasons of The Bad Batch, with the 3rd season coming soon. Star Wars The Acolyte is on the way. We got Star Wars Obi-Wan, we got Andor, we got Ahsoka, we got Star Wars Visions, we got The Mandalorian, but we're still waiting on Lando, which is supposed to be in production. Is it also supposed to be a film, I believe, at this point? And also Star Wars A Droid Story, which I believe is being developed somewhere behind the scenes. That said, this day made it seem like there was so much for Star Wars on the horizon, which, let's be fair, there was. But now, 3 years later, getting the announcements that we're getting 3 and now 4 new Star Wars films, originally being the film about Rey, the film about the origins of the Jedi, and Dave Filoni's Endgame style film, and now The Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm a little bit concerned that some of these projects are never going to get made. So, The Mandalorian and Grogu is the name of the new film. It's being directed by Jon Favreau, also produced by Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni. Cool to see that Dave Filoni is having some involvement, especially considering he's also working on his own film, which is going to tie into the same part of the timeline, and will likely also feature The Mandalorian. Jon Favreau's come out saying some pretty generic statements. I've loved telling stories set in the rich world that George Lucas created. The prospect of bringing The Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu to the big screen is extremely exciting. And with this kind of statement, I'm wondering if this was their original intention for the ending of season 3 of The Mandalorian. The end of season 3 was a bit of a reset, and let's be real, a bit of a disappointment, especially after the climax of season 2, the fact Grogu and Mando were separated, to then be anticlimactically brought back together in the Book of Boba Fett, which we all know was The Mandalorian 2.5 and was hijacked by the dude who barely takes his helmet off.
It is done.
Even while watching The Mandalorian Season 3, even though certain episodes had been quite hit and miss, I think we were all still expecting the ending of the season to be, once again, a bit of a cliffhanger, especially with Mando getting captured in the second last episode, and Grogu and Mando being separated once again. But no, they're back together, they got their own house, and they're chilling like another Western story, and we thought that that was where this was going to go. It was going to be season 4, a new weekly-style episodic tales of The Mandalorian and Grogu, which was the original intention of the series, and kind of what season 1 and 2 I think did so well. Every episode, they're on a different planet, they're going on a new quest, and you're there to follow their journey, eating the eggs of some poor space frog. It was a heck of a ride. Kathleen Kennedy also gave a statement saying Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have ushered into Star Wars 2 new and beloved characters, and this new story is a perfect fit for the big screen. So it seems like they've already developed a story. The fact they're saying this is going to go into production in 2024 means they're going to start filming. They're already in pre-production, they're getting a script finalized, they're getting actors on board, and they're getting everyone involved in the project. There's been no confirmation as to whether Pedro Pascal is actually going to be in the film. You would think he will be, considering he is the Mandalorian. It'd be pretty pretty strange to do a Mandalorian movie without him.
I'm your daddy.
That said, there's also no indication as to whether he's gonna take off his helmet or whether he'll even make an appearance in the film. Potentially, just like he did in season 3, the guy won't even have to set foot on set, doing all his work in a voiceover booth after the show has been filmed. I really hope that's not the case. I really love all the times Pedro's taken his helmet off and we get to see Din Djarin's face, especially because we understand how meaningful it is when he takes off the helmet.
All right, pal. It's time to go.
Is it even Pedro in the mask? You don't know it's me under here. You have no idea. It could be anyone. It's like really claustrophobic in here. Ugh, I don't know where to put this. And now, if I'm being totally honest, I think this is a little bit of a desperate move from Lucasfilm and Disney to reignite the fire of Star Wars and get it back in cinemas. The Mandalorian, since the release of Disney Plus, has been their flagship series. It was still the most viewed streaming series of the year in 2023 across all platforms, and since Disney took over Star Wars, is probably their most successful property. It's their most successful original character and original story outside of the sequel films. And I think they're once again putting all the weight of Star Wars on the Mando's back to try and bring some excitement and hype back to Star Wars after maybe the disappointment of season 3 and the mixed reviews for Ahsoka and Obi-Wan.
We could talk.
Fire!
Having The Mandalorian and Grogu in the cinema, I think, is going to reignite that flame. But what does this mean for Season 4 of The Mandalorian? Are we still getting a Season 4 outside of this film? There were rumors a few months ago that The Mandalorian Season 4 was being changed into a film and that Season 4 wasn't going to happen. However, according to Deadline, apparently The Mandalorian Season 4 is still in production. However, I don't know where they're getting their source for this. Maybe they have someone directed Lucasfilm, but this is what they've stated and published. So if we have this to go on, it seems like Mando Season 4 will still happen, and likely after the film. I don't think Mando Season 4 is anywhere near being filmed unless they film the film alongside Season 4 somehow. I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm also really curious as to whether they're going to shoot Mando Season 4 on location, perhaps similar to a series like Andor, which is why Andor feels so real and looks so rugged, because everywhere is a real location. Most of The Mandalorian up until this point has been filmed in the volume, those giant LED screens with projections of Unreal Engine to create digital sets. And I think for the film, it's likely we could get a mix of both real life and the volume. Disney are likely going to want to preserve the original look of The Mandalorian and have the show have a very similar feel, and a lot of that is achieved through how it's shot.
I mean, you warned me. You had the high ground.
Also, it seems clear that they've developed an original story for this film. Clearly, Dave Filoni has some big idea he thought would translate better to the big screen and has pitched this to Kathleen Kennedy, and they've all decided to make it into a film. We do have some concept art to go alongside this, although I believe it's just concept art. It's Mando using his jetpack while holding Grogu to fly away from an exploding ship. I think it's kind of hard to see any specific details in this, as I think it's more of just a stock image and doesn't really reveal many plot points, but it could potentially be a pirate ship. That's my first thought. Similar to the pirates we saw in Mando Season 3, which are potentially also going to appear in Skeleton Crew, the other up-and-coming Star Wars show starring Jude Law. And with the announcement of The Mandalorian and Grogu, the film, we also have some more good news. Alongside Dave Filoni's film that he's developing, which is going to be the big Avengers Endgame style film where all the characters come together, it's been confirmed he's also developing Ahsoka Season 2.
This is where the fun begins.
It seems like that is still in very early development though. I don't think they're even going to be shooting until maybe the end of the year or potentially next year, 2025. So Ahsoka Season 2 seems like it's at least still a couple years away. I'm wondering if Dave Filoni had to get the green light from Lucasfilm and from Disney that Ahsoka Season 1 would perform well enough that he was going to be allowed to make a Season 2. Maybe they had original ideas to make it 2 seasons all along that would lead into his film starring Thrawn and all the other characters. And all that the actors have really said so far is that they'd love to be involved in a Season 2, but of course they could be under NDAs and just not be able to reveal whether it's happening or not yet. But it is happening. It's gonna happen. So we're gonna find out what happens to Ezra, what happens to Thrawn, what happens to Ahsoka. Ahsoka's journey is continuing. And I'm wondering if we're also gonna get more Anakin flashbacks in that, if Hayden Christensen's gonna be involved in some way, potentially in the Ahsoka Season 2 or potentially in Dave Filoni's film. I mean, The Mandalorian and Grogu, even though it's an original story, is likely gonna have a bunch of cameos and characters coming back from other Star Wars projects and media here. I'm sure Bo-Katan's going to be involved, the other Mandalorians. But if I'm being totally honest with you, I'm really excited about this. I want more Star Wars. I want more Star Wars movies, and the Mandalorian Grogu I think will transition so well into the cinema. That said, I still think we should be a little cautious and not get our hopes up too high that all of these Star Wars projects will be made. Until I see trailers and until I see a release date, then I think it's fair, based on what's happened in the past, to be a little bit skeptical. Now, if you're excited about Star Wars Outlaws, the next Star Wars game to release, then I'd recommend you watch this video here with the latest information on the game. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.